with so much that's been done here and at Disbro and at Nursery Field, obviously the big upgrade that's gone on there, I think the next clear priority is Gagliardo.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
How are you, Angelo?
How are you?
Nice to meet you.
How's it going?
I'm doing well.
Good.
This is my cameraman, Timmy.
Hey, Timmy.
My friend Leo, photographer.
Leo, what's up? How you doing, man?
Yeah, so we could walk around
Where do you guys wanna
this
go?
way. Yeah, walk around the park and head towards, I guess, towards Milton.
Definitely.
All right. You rolling, Timmy?
Going, right?
I'm doing well, yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, part 2 of the mayoral race for Rye.
Number 2, I try harder.
There you go. This episode, we got Rick McCabe, who's also running for mayor of Rye, running as independent. Real quick, what does it mean to run independent?
Great question. I've had a lot of people ask me that as I've been going around talking to people. What it means is, if I get elected, if people trust me with this job, well, on day one, I don't have any locked-in loyalty to any party, any faction, any person. It's just to the people of Rye. I can come in with, as we're getting a fresh start in January, right? New mayor, some new council members, a new city manager is going to get selected at some point soon.
Yeah.
It's a fresh start. That's a big deal.
Clean house,
that hasn't
yeah.
all kind of come together in Rye in a really long time. We've obviously had people changing offices and things like that, but for all three of those things to happen, I feel like if I'm elected, if like I said, if I'm trusted with this, I can walk in with no other loyalties than to what the people in Rye want and need.
I like that. It sounds like you're really for the people. You really have to listen to what the people want and what they need.
I think everyone that volunteers for these jobs does that, but I think I can come with it clean of any other sort of influences, any other sort of ideas of what does the party think, what does somebody in White Plains think, in Albany, in Washington. I won't come in with any of those things. It's just about what do my neighbors and residents think in town.
Gotcha. So talk about a little bit about yourself. You were born and raised in Rye.
Raised.
Okay.
I was born in the Bronx.
Okay.
My whole family's from the Bronx. My dad became a police officer in Rye in 1974, so I was only 2. And after a couple of years, he and Mom realized quickly this is the place where we want to be, right? And so they moved us up here in 1979. When I was 7, my sister was 5. My sister Kate was 5. Went to Osborne and middle school and high school and stuff like that.
I went to Osborne too.
Were you? Yeah. I know the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me, other than meeting my wife and having my boys.
Right.
It's the greatest thing that ever happened because it gave me all the opportunities that I've ever had in my life, started by being in Rye. Not to say there aren't other great places to grow up, but you know how special it is. And you know the opportunities that come from being here and just what a special place it is. So, like I said, grew up in town. My wife and I are in the town now raising our boys. They're at the high school and the middle school and taking advantage of all those things in town that we loved growing up as well.
How has Rye changed? What do you like better, the Rye you had growing up or the Rye now?
It's a good question. I don't always just say that the Rye before was better.
Okay.
I think Rye has changed over time. Change is inevitable. And it's about how we all participate in that change that makes the difference. Right? It's how, if you're going to be part of an elected office, if you're going to volunteer for a commission, if you're just going to be a concerned resident and a concerned voter, that's really important. That's what helps shape the change. The change is going to happen. The job of the residents and the jobs of folks that are running for office like me is just to help shape it, is to try and build some consensus, think about what town wants and needs, not make decisions on our own, but listen to the folks that are in town. Whether it's about development in and around Purchase Street, if it's about what to do with our parks, if it's how do we prepare for the best we can for the next big storm and flood event, you want to make sure those are the things that people in these kinds of positions are taking seriously. Right.
Now, you mentioned that your father was a Rye police officer.
Yes.
What are some things that he did maybe for the community or some things he did with leadership that you might have took bits and pieces of that you might put towards your campaign and if you're elected mayor?
I appreciate the question. And folks that know my dad, they would, he, like I said, he was on the force for 31 years. He's been retired for 20 years now, but he did also spend about 10 years of his time on the police department was on Purchase Street. He was that daytime, Tuesday through Saturday kind of beat police presence that was there. And what I've taken away from what he taught me throughout my life, but also what I saw him do by example as a police officer, was treat everyone with respect. Anyone that comes at you from a different perspective, a different lifestyle, you start by treating everyone with respect.
Yeah.
My dad brought always a great optimism to being there and sort of his love of this town and always thinking with the best of about anybody that he came across. and just remaining dedicated to the city.
Yeah.
And he obviously he dedicated his career to it, and this is my opportunity. I think with other things that I've done since my boys were born, and since we're now raising our family here, this is I think the next thing that I can do to best serve the city.
That's awesome. Now we're at the Rye Rec right now,
Yep.
and you are a part of the commission explain what you do with the rec.
Sure. I'm the chair of the Rye Recreation Commission. I've been on the
Okay.
commission since 2018. I'm the chair for the last 2 years. And it's an 8-member volunteer commission, as all of our commissions and boards like zoning and planning and things like that, those are all volunteer boards. Those are all people that step forward and say,
Oh, wow.
this is the part that I can do right now, which I think is an important thing. The Recreation Commission, like I said, 8 volunteers that are particularly passionate and dedicated to the programs that Rye Rec provides and the facilities that we have. So when we were talking about everything from toddlers to seniors, when you think about it, it really is a program that touches everybody in town every day, all year round. My first experience with the rec was Rye Rec Camp, summer of 1980, Rye Rec Camp, and exactly where we're standing right now. You weren't allowed back here at that point, but it was, right here on this property. And the commission's job is, kind of like the city council. It's listen to the residents, build some consensus about goals and priorities, work with the city staff to implement those. I guess as the city staff goes to do those, implement them as, help guide and advise and, work with the city staff and trying to make those things a reality.
Yeah.
And, helping them with things that we look at periodically, like their budget and things like that. So it's a bit of a microcosm of what goes on at the council.
Right. So you're part of the team that I need to talk to get the Rye Summerfest back.
We're gonna get Summerfest back, which sounds like a great. I grew up right down the hill from Gagliardo, between Central and Orchard.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, so I was on Walnut Street growing up. That's where my parents.
Yeah.
That's where we lived when I was growing up. So Gag was our neighborhood park.
Did I see you over there yesterday?
I was in the neighborhood.
I definitely saw you around like 5:30.
I was knocking on doors on Maple and Central, and I was exactly up there. And then my wife and I went back to the Roadhouse.
And I
Roadhouse.
Yeah, and then I saw you at the football game too.
Yeah, I was at the football game all over yesterday. But yeah, I think everybody on the commission can be really proud of the fact that we've made some good strides in the last, I'll say, the 7 years that I've been on there. We've made strides forever, but I think some folks have been on that commission for a very long time, and I think we've seen, I'd like to say, more progress in the last, let's say, 5 years than we've probably seen in a while before that. If you look around this park, this park from growing up. Those pavilions are new. All these walking trails are new. The building could still continue to use some upgrades and some new stuff, but both those pavilions, all these areas back here, the outside bathrooms, all these things have just, have come online. Not just because of the commission, because of the council, because of folks in town, most importantly because of the city staff that does unbelievable work in keeping these parks in such great shape. So when we look around town, we know we have limited park space. So what we have to be able to do is upgrade and upkeep the parks that we have. And I think Gagliardo is a perfect example of a place that needs the next real wave of upgrade and attention.
Why do you feel that? Why do you think that maybe it's been a delay on renovating Gagliardo? Do you think that it's because a lot of people that are on the board don't live in that area, or more like on this side of the town, they give more love to the rec?
I don't know. I think the rec was an opportunity at a point, I think it was in late 2022. I'd have to go back and look, but I think there was an opportunity for a transformation of the flagship park, right?
Okay.
And what I will say is that every week on our agenda at the Rec Commission, Gagliardo Park is on that agenda. Sometimes it's a real material issue. Sometimes it's just what are we doing at every park that we can do. The city staff has done a great job maintaining it, but certainly there hasn't been a serious upgrade there hasn't been enough attention paid to it. There hasn't been enough attention paid to it in a long time.
Yeah.
Rye Little League's a great partner, and they've done a great job with the field. But the field has boundaries, and that's other than that, the main part of the park, certainly what we've seen here, hasn't happened.
It's neglected, yes.
And it definitely, I would say, with so much that's been done here and at Disbro and at Nursery Field, obviously the big upgrade that's gone on there, I think the next clear priority is Gagliardo.
What do you think needs to be done to like put a fire under your ass to get
what I would say is there's like anything with city government, right? There's always going to be things that are going to slow it down. Sometimes it's money, sometimes it's input from folks around the community. I think there's some momentum to make that the priority park and to make sure that that's the park that gets the next wave of attention, the next bit of money. It's not to say that the other ones, hey Theo, not to say that the other parks get ignored. That's not how this should all operate. But
Right.
I think if we look at Gagliardo, this is not for me to say, but I think in listening to the neighbors, which we have, I think you can look at, there's those clear areas that need improvement.
Right.
It's the park overall, but what are the physical things like the playground or the shelter or things like that need an upgrade?
Right.
What's going to serve best to that neighborhood, right? It's a unique park. All of our parks serve all of our residents.
Right.
That park is unique in that it's always been that neighborhood park
Yeah.
in a very different way, I think, than Rec Park or Disbro or the nursery is now. It really is the neighborhood park in Dublin, as we called it growing up.
Yeah,
Right? Like
yeah.
and I think that's got to be part of that conversation. It's listening to the folks that are new to the neighborhood. It's listening to the folks that have been in the neighborhood for 50, 60, 80 years. And let's build that consensus. Let's work together to see what's going to be best for that park. It's not for me to say,
What's up, y'all? I see y'all. What's up? Dobbs, what up?
walk around with celebrities and not see what happens. It's not for me to say where a basketball court goes. It's not for me to say where a shelter is going to go. Are there clear things that need to get done? The playground, the shelter, the basketball court, working with the state to get that sound barrier against 95?
Right.
Yeah, but I'm not going to sit here and say this is where anything should go. I think that's for the commission to support and for the city staff, the city
Yeah.
engineer, Ryan Prime, who does an incredible job, Aaron Mance, who's the rec superintendent. They do an incredible job. Look around. Look right where we're walking right now. And let them be the ones that say, okay, here's the consensus. Now let's figure out what the plan can look like.
Gotcha. I agree. You definitely got to get. That's
But personally, I'm not going to use the names of the families. But
Yeah.
you said I was just up there yesterday. But there's families in the neighborhood that I've known since I was a kid.
Right.
That families that have lived in Rye, worked in Rye, and there's families that have just gotten to experience Rye in the last couple of years, all of which is awesome.
Yeah.
But we listen to everybody, right? We say,
got
okay,
it.
we have a couple of parks that are beautiful athletic facilities that do get good upkeep through our user groups and things like that.
Yeah.
And
Timmy go this way, yeah. And just walk all the way down.
I think that's a park that, to your point about Summerfest or about other,
I just have so many ideas about how we could get things done where it wouldn't even need to wait for a city budget, because that's just like almost like a middleman that we could cut out. I feel like, because when I post like me doing my walk and talks and talking about rebuilding the gag, and people reach out to me saying, hey, my construction company would love to just help out. My basketball court company that builds custom basketball courts would love to be a part of this process. And so I feel like that maybe I got to go to a board meeting with everything lined up and on paper, just people ready to help. But I feel like it could be done sooner than y'all think.
I think we can always make progress on it. We can probably make progress more quickly. Those are great ideas to have those kinds of partners. I think if you look at a field like Nursery Field, that was a field that we knew was in need of redevelopment and rehabilitation for years, right? It was flooding, it was this, it was that. We had this unique opportunity with a funding group who came forward and said, we'll raise the money to put this to get this field in the shape that we think it should be. We had a good, honest debate around the community. Should it be turf? Should it not be turf? How are we best going to protect against flooding?
Yeah.
That consensus was built, and then eventually it was passed by the city council. And I'm not saying that has to be what happens at Gagliardo. It doesn't have to be a new funding group or anything like that, but I do think having a plan where residents are going to give their input and say, okay, here are the 5 or 8 things. Like we'd love to redo everything, but here are the 5 or 8 things that are the priority, right? Let's just say it's the playground, it's the blacktop, it's the shelter, it's whatever we say it is, whatever everybody says it is. If there are those kinds of opportunities to say, oh, there's a sport court company that does this kind of work for public parks, let's bring them in. Like I said, we meet once a month. Our meetings are open on the rec commission, and we've had neighbors come in. One of the families that's lived on High Street for a very long time, the father and the son both came in a couple of weeks ago. We got some really good feedback from them. So we're going to continue to sort of outreach to the community and say, please come in. And maybe it's not even just our monthly meeting. Maybe it's this is the public hearing or the public meeting where we say, bring all those ideas forward, and then we'll organize them. And if there's opportunities to take advantage of, maybe it is a funding group, maybe it is a contractor who's willing to do something that is beneficial that we would get a better rate on or anything like that. I think those are all important. And I think I do think sometimes the frustration builds and I understand this in the neighborhood that we're talking about, all around Dublin. People see other parks getting done, they see work getting done, which is completely reasonable. But I think it gets frustrating when not only are they seeing that, but they're not hearing or seeing any progress on what they want to get done. And I know that, like I said, the city staff does a great job maintaining what's there. They haven't been given the resources recently to make any kind of upgrades.
Gotcha. Let's talk about flooding. And I think that's one of the most costly problems that the city faces. Sure. I mean, when I talked to Mr. Nathan about like the resizing the size of I forgot what it was called. What he mentioned, the lake by the airport.
Yep.
What are some other techniques that you think we could do to stop flooding, or at least try to lower the rate and the damages? Yeah.
It's one of the most important questions, and Rye gets it, if you will, we get it from the top and we get it from the bottom, right? We're unique in that we get the downhill run from the highest elevation in the area, which is the airport, and then we also get, in the right storm, we get that storm surge from the sound, which pushes back through the harbor and up the brook, and creates that additional pressure. The airport's a great place to start. We have to work with Westchester County to make sure that there was a third planned retention pond that never was built. And we need to help work with them to see if we can get that made. From what everybody says, as some of that runoff water from the airport was redirected from Rye Lake, which is a reservoir, so that kind of makes sense, to Blind Brook, nothing was ever done to try and help Blind Brook handle all that extra water, right? And that's years and years ago now, but it's still contributing to the flooding that we see here. There's an opportunity to do something at SUNY Purchase, in the woods, in the forests around SUNY Purchase, to build what people have described as like berms, right? Like sort of a soil, not taking trees down, not doing anything that should be very obstructive, but that would create a way to sort of delay the water, right? Not to keep it up there, but to redirect it temporarily so the brook has more time to get the water out of Rye Brook and get it out and get it through Rye. That was something that was on the table. There was going to be some federal money potentially available for that.
Right.
That's now been taken back in the last 8 months. So
you're talking about the $3 million, or?
I'm not sure what the number was.
Okay.
But there was a program called BRICS, Building Resilient Communities, that was basically going to help communities like Rye with some federal money to do things as much as they could to help with those storm situations. That money's now gone, from what I understand, and so it'll be a matter of, if we're going to do things like, let's say, the SUNY Purchase project with their cooperation, we'd need to figure out the funding from that, whether it's from federal or state. In Rye itself, I think the Planning Commission has been really smart about allowing people to, in the right areas of town, elevate their homes. One story, right? You've seen a lot of those houses that they get either rebuilt or built for the first time. That bottom street level,
especially in Indian Village.
Indian Village, and then my parents are still in that neighborhood, Central and Orchard. The brook always floods there, right behind, from Post Road up Orchard and up Central. A couple of those houses will have the opportunity to do that if they need it. That's an expensive proposition, though. We're not going to stop the next storm. We're not going to solve flooding completely, but I think a couple of those things that we can work with the county on, we can work with the state on, are going to be really important. There's the project on Locust Avenue in front of the Y, that bridge between the firehouse and the Y. We're able to get money from the state that's going to help us rebuild that bridge. It needs to be. We can't have it be a choke point every time we have a big storm. And those are the kinds of projects where we have to cooperate with all of the local municipalities like Rye Brook and Portchester, Harrison, and Mamaroneck, but also the county and the state.
Right. So when you mentioned that you work with, that you mentioned that you're running Independent, does that mean you can't work with these other towns in
No,
other counties?
Of course we can. I mean, you see in some surrounding towns, there's actually been some movement on. There's an independent mayor in the village of Mamaroneck. You see some towns around us like Scarsdale and Pleasantville and Briarcliff that have nonpartisan elections. People don't run as Republicans and Democrats; they just run as Angelo or Rick. That's how that all works. I think those things could be really helpful. But what it means is I can work with anybody. It means if I'm not walking into office without a letter behind my name, other than an I, which doesn't really mean anything other than the fact that I'm not one side or the other, I can work with anybody. And that's my commitment on the council. Is if I get there, is I start day one with the ability and no negative history.
You're open to both sides.
Open to both sides, and no negative history of who's voted against me, who's voted for me, things like that, and things that I've blocked or rooted for.
Right.
And so I think that ends up helping in the long run. And I think in terms of working with other communities, I don't think that has much of an effect at all. I think it's basically it's Rye. No matter how our council is composed, it's Rye and Portchester and Harrison and Mamaroneck, not Democratic, whatever, Republican, whatever.
With even though it was a while ago, with your father being a police officer, do you think that's helping your campaign or have any beneficial value?
I don't know that it's necessarily that he was a police officer. I just think the fact that he was such a good person and just was sort of, I think a great member of the community, as is my mom. And the fact that they're still here, I think the recognition certainly helps, and I'm incredibly proud of that.
Okay.
But I think I'm running on my own dime, right? I'm running with a little bit of familiarity, but a lot of questions. Can he win? Good question. Is he qualified? Good question. I think the answer to both of those is yes. I think there are enough people in town that want a fresh start. They don't want people walking in there with loyalties to one side or the other. They want people that are going to come in with a loyalty to just getting done what needs to get done. And I think, that's the biggest advantage.
Yeah. Speaking of being qualified, you work at communications in what company? Was it?
Most recently at CBS. I
CBS,
spent
yes.
most of my career in media and specifically in sports, which is part of why my interest in the rec commission and things like that have been so, it's been where I've really spent the majority of my volunteer time, whether it's been on the rec commission, Rye Little League, things like that. But that's been my background as public relations and corporate communications. I've worked at Sports Illustrated, I've worked at CBS, and I worked in a variety of
how would
agencies.
that correlate to being a mayor? Like how knowledgeable, like what makes you knowledgeable and qualified to be a mayor with that background?
I think part of it's that background, but part of it is, I think in any business setting, the people that are successful oftentimes are the ones that can build consensus. They can lead a team and they can build consensus. And I think one of the most important jobs of the mayor, as one of 7 on the council, but the mayor in title, is to be able to build that consensus and have a leadership presence that people recognize. My vote counts just as much as anybody else up there, but the mayor's role is a bit unique in terms of the way it's perceived and how it is in reality. But I think my ability to clearly communicate ideas, my ability to build consensus, and be accountable, whether it's on budgets that are, the city budget's way bigger than any budget I managed in my work life, but that was a big part of my responsibility, was making sure that a task gets done on time and on budget.
I recently read, and I've seen this all over Facebook, bow hunting is legal as of October 1st in Rye. Can you explain what's going on with this? Because this sounds crazy to me, that people are allowed to start hunting deer in the Rye.
I think there's been a little bit of misperception about that all of a sudden it's legal in Rye. There have always been, that possibility has always existed on private property with very specific parameters to where it can be done in terms of the distance from public property, the size of your property. The deer population, as we know, is becoming a real issue again.
Yeah.
This is something that comes up in Rye on a pretty regular basis. Sometimes it's the coyotes, sometimes it's the deer. I think one of the ideas that's come up, and there's a great committee of dedicated volunteers that they've put together as a volunteer advisory committee about the deer population.
Right.
And I want to wait and see what they have to say. What does the science say, and what do they have to say about recommendations? There is, as I understand it, bow hunting specifically is something that is allowed on certain parts of private property and with certain, like I said, within certain parameters.
Yeah.
No one's saying that people should just be walking around town with
It can get crazy.
crossbow looking for animals. I think now we know that's way beyond what we're talking about. I think we need to be really smart, but we need to be, we need to be reactive. I think that's why the council smartly put together this committee that's going to work hopefully relatively quickly to give us some strong recommendations. I think this goes back to the volunteerism point in town. Earlier in the year, the council asked a group of citizens to get together and just put together a preliminary report on the downtown, on Purchase Street specifically, the central business district, right? And what can we do? What should we do? What opportunities are there? What threats are there? And in a very short amount of time, that committee came back with, I think, a very good report with some concrete recommendations, but a lot more sort of guidance. And I think the Deer Committee is going to come back the same way, say these are the things that look like they could be effective right away. Some people talk about fence height, some people talk about the bow hunting, some people talk about other methods. Let's consider all of it. Let's have a good debate. Let's really be led by the science and the data, and make some decisions to help people with this, because I do think it's affecting people on their properties.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking about it with my dad. Like, what if we're gonna just have it be like a laser tag in the Rye Nature Center, just like a free for all? And then again, like, how many people have bow and arrows? Like, when you say private property, like if there's deer in their backyard, you can shoot it.
No, if I understand it correctly, you need to be a licensed, a licensed hunter to do anything like that, and
have permits in your permit.
I think it's, some people advocate for it, which I can understand. I don't necessarily think that's the step that we have to take right away.
Right.
We have to be, if we're going to implement it, it has to be done very carefully. But I think we live off of Oakland Beach Avenue, and especially during the day, oddly enough, there's a small family of deer that's routinely sitting out in the street.
Yeah.
They're just eating and they're just going about their business. But it can be a hazard. There's kids running, there's kids on bikes, there's traffic going back and forth, and I think it's something that we obviously need to address.
We talked about, when I walked with Josh, we talked about putting a sidewalk over on Forest Avenue. What are some other like safety things we could work on in the city?
I think the sidewalk. I think everybody agrees that's one of the priority projects in terms of pedestrian safety, without a doubt. And from what we understand, it's just one of these things that gets caught up in Albany. And even with the best efforts of the current council and the mayor, it's not. Yeah, no, this is not a Rye issue anymore. Rye is ready to go. Yeah. This is a matter of getting it's probably more than T's and I's being dotted and crossed, but it's something that we're told from our elected representatives like Steve Otis and Shelley Mayer that it's just a matter of going through the process, and everyone's in favor of it in Rye. I don't think there's any stumbling blocks here.
Right.
The folks that live in that neighborhood certainly think that's a huge priority, and I agree. In terms of some of those other ones, I think the Traffic and Pedestrian Safety Commission does just a phenomenal job. They get tons of requests, and people want something very specific for their corner of the world, and they try to accommodate when they can and when it's appropriate and when it's legal.
Right.
Whether that's a lit crosswalk or something like that. But I think if you even look around and see those lit crosswalks where you see them now painted and signed and you can hit the button and the lights go on, I think those are improvements to when we were growing up and
True.
Try to find a place to cross as opposed to,
Yeah, Tim, we're gonna go left and then we're gonna walk down to Playland and hit the boardwalk.
Okay. Have you been to nursery?
Yeah. It's beautiful. Okay, word. How do you feel about like I grew up in Rye too, and it kind of makes me sad when I see things like the smoke shop close down, and I see like conscious efforts of people like try to do GoFundMes and petitions, and then like legendary and historical landmarks like that get closed down. How do you feel about that when Rye is changing with the times?
Yeah, I never like to see a place like that go.
Yeah.
For sure. I think for private businesses like that, even the ones that have been here forever, there's going to be a time when they're going to have to make a change. And that can be their own choice sometimes. That could be driven by where they're a tenant and things like that. I never like to see the smoke shop go. Peg and Tony were on my paper route when I was delivering papers on Purchase Street. Or I shouldn't say that. I was doing my paper route and would go in there and spend my paper route money on gum. And everything else.
5-cent candies is crazy.
To have a presence like that is incredible. And I think, like I said before, change is inevitable. And as residents of the city, it's our job to shape it and try and mold it as best we can. There's going to be those situations where those kinds of places that we don't necessarily have control over are going to come and go over time. I'd never like to see it, but I think we're a little limited in being able to stop them. Having said that, I see a GoFundMe or I see a Facebook page come up for things like that, and it fills me with pride.
Yeah, because this community cares.
This is why we're here. This is why any of us are happy we grew up here and why we're glad we're still here.
We're about to go to Playland. What is going on with Playland? I see that. I mean, on TikTok, I just see like people just complaining about it. Yeah. What's the word? Is it closing down? Is it going to stay open?
From what we understand from the county, it will be open. It was open this summer. It took a little bit for them to get up and rolling. They had an unfortunate situation where they had hired a vendor to run it under a previous administration at the county level before George Latimer. That company decided to step away from their contract, which left the county kind of holding the bag. I think the county did their best to get it up and running. You know this from growing up here. The park is a treasure, but the park is always a bit of a thorn for the city, right? I hate to say it that way, but I love it.
Why do you say that? Is it because of people coming out from out of town, or?
No. But let's be honest. It's a massive destination in town,
right?
Especially in those summer months.
Yeah.
It's a treasure, right? It's literally a national historic on the Register of National Historic Places. So it's something that we should be grateful to have. The management of it has just been inconsistent enough, whether it's been the county running it or the multiple different corporations that have tried to run it over time. I have a feeling it's going to be one of these things that we're always going to be talking about.
Right.
I don't know that there's a silver bullet to figure it out.
Yeah.
I think right now it appears that there's a plan in place. The county now knows that they've got a longer runway to get it open and get all the rides open or as many as they can for the start of next year, whereas last year it kind of came out of nowhere that they were going to have to manage it and try and run it. Let's be honest, like I said, it's a treasure in town. It's as unique as a park as you can get in this area. It employs a lot of people, some in town, but a lot from other places.
True.
And it's something that, as a good partner of the county, we want to make sure that we're being at least as good a partner as we can get. We have to be conscious of there's going to be a draw on city resources, whether it's police and fire, whether it's EMTs, things like that. But obviously Westchester County Police is down there as well. But there is an impact that we have to continue to consider.
Yeah. Where does like most of the budget money go? I know there's different like categories, but like where does most, like when they say we don't have money in the budget, where is the actual budget money going then?
So I would think of two different budgets. I would think of if you're a taxpayer in Rye, a good portion of your money is going to go to the school board.
Okay.
It's going to go to running all of our schools, and that's been that's obviously well established and as it should be, given the quality of our schools and the quality of the educators in every building.
Gotcha.
If you look at the rest of the city budget, if you will, almost 3/4 of it goes to pay for current and retired staffing in the city. So think about that budget. I want to say it's 72% of every dollar in that pool goes to paying our incredible city staff and for their benefits, but also for past retired city workers and maintaining their pensions and benefits as well.
Oh, that's
so
interesting.
it as much as we say, where does all the money go? Where's all the money go?
Yeah.
When you think about that more than 70% is spoken for on day one, you're only then talking about a relatively small pie. Some of the other parts of that tax pie are also spoken for. So it's not like we're just saying, everything's up for grabs. There's some things that we have, obviously, Rye is one of the safest communities in America. We want to continue to maintain and support a strong element of public safety through the police department, the fire department, and the EMTs, how we support as well. But I think there's must-haves and there's nice-to-haves, and I think you have to start with the must-haves. That's you want to be smart about the city budget, as smart as you can, right? You want to be maintaining safety. You want to be being ready for the next storm. There's those kinds of things that are kind of the must-haves and have to come first, and then the rest of it is okay. We have what are our priorities for the rest of it?
Right.
How do we spend the rest of that money and the rest of those resources?
If you're elected mayor, what are your top 3 priorities to get, I guess, for change? You don't even have to change it, improve maybe? Yeah, I think it's not surprising after you've spoken with Josh. A lot of the core issues we're all sort of, which is actually a good thing. We're all pretty close in terms of our points of view on city finance being something that has to be maintained, because when it hasn't been in the past, it becomes a problem for a long period of time. And the current council and the current mayor have done a very good job at that, and city staff. I think the storm resiliency and flood resiliency has to stay sort of top of mind for everybody. But I think you start to think beyond that. You're talking about things like the comprehensive plan that hasn't been updated since 1985. What is that? What is that again?
So think about they call it the comprehensive plan, or it's a master plan for the city.
Gotcha.
It's not a silver bullet. It's not a specific blueprint of this is what we're going to do on this street and when. Whoa! See, we're in nature. We're down near the water now. It's not gonna dictate. So 1985 was the last time that it was really updated, which is amazing when you think about it, right?
It's crazy.
It's crazy. It's an opportunity to redo that and update certain parts of it, change certain parts of it. It's a guiding document that everyone seems to think is important. People in the city government and outside of city government will tell you it's not a silver bullet. It doesn't solve all the problems. It's not going to be page 16 is all the problems to solve flooding. That's not what we're talking about at all. It's going to be, as a community, where do we want to go in terms of our development, in terms of our priorities. It's really comprehensive. It's not just about flooding. It's not just about planning and zoning. It's sort of a broader document to give us not a blueprint, but maybe like a guiding sort of a set of guideposts along for the future to keep it moving in that direction.
So
and to your point about this goes back to sort of like, well, why is this taking so long? A year ago, there was a decision that the city council as a whole would take on the process for searching for a consultant to help us through that process. It's not something, obviously our trained city staff knows how to do this kinds of stuff, but it's a big lift. Yeah. We need some help from the outside. Which we do on a lot of projects. Straight down, all the way down to the right. Stay on this sidewalk, and when you come to the buildings, you'll see it.
Thank you.
Sure. a year ago that a few members of the council decided, no, the full council needs to deliberate on this and be part of that whole process,
Right.
as opposed to, all right, let's take 3 members, let them go off and do some work, come back with a recommendation, then we can all vote on it. Now it's been stuck for a year.
Right.
There's no movement on it. There hasn't been a consultant selected, and we're at 40 years versus 39
40
years.
is crazy.
Right? So,
Is that normal?
I don't think so. I could be wrong. There could be communities that wait that long. 40 years is.
Well, you think it's
I think it sounds like a ridiculous amount of time when you actually think about it. Not to say it should happen. It's not something that's going to solve every ill, and it's not something that should be done in 3 months, right? This is something that the communities going to have to give input. We're going to have to think about all the different parts of what goes into a plan like that. But it seems like another symptom of why don't those things get progressed through the council?
Right.
Why do we wait on
No,
something?
Tim, we're gonna go make a right here. I'm gonna head back towards to the rec.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like I feel like all the candidates kind of have like the same plan. What separates you guys?
Well, I feel like there's been way too much kind of infighting and kind of factional chess games that have gone on that slow things down.
Mm-hmm.
That might be, a nonprofit that's looking to make a change to their property and upgrade their property for their constituency. It might be an athletic field like Nursery Field, or God forbid, when we do get to a point of progressing on Gagliardo, hopefully very soon, that doesn't get stalled for some, well, this person wants this, or we should take everybody's opinion into consideration, but take the points of view into consideration, and then make a decision, and let's move on. And I think I want those decisions to be made strictly on what's best for the community and what the community's told us about it, not people worrying about, oh, there's this thing I have to worry about because this person wants this or this. It's like take in the feedback, do your homework, take in the feedback, be ready to make a decision that you think is best for the community only on that basis.
Right.
Not based on your party, who you think you want to block, he didn't vote for me last time, all that kind of stuff we really got to put that aside. It doesn't seem like we need to operate that way.
Yeah, at this grown age, man, people are still petty like that. How do you feel about like taxes? Like my dad always complains about taxes. They raising it again. Do you have any control? Would you have any control over that as mayor?
Well, the city has some control over that, and certainly the way the dollars are spent. I think it's, I want my taxes to be lower. You do, your dad does. Everyone wants their taxes to be lower, but the balance with that is, what are your priorities for town, right? And those are those must-haves, like making sure we're prepared for another storm, making sure that we're living up to our obligations to the people that work for the town, for the city now and in the past. Those things are pretty straightforward. It comes down to, okay, what's the rest of that pie, and how are we gonna spend it? Are we gonna shrink it? Or are we gonna try and grow it? Or are we just gonna do different things with it and keep it the same? But yeah, I think the answer is we don't like to pay fewer taxes. So much of the taxes that we pay in town don't even come to Rye, right? It's what goes to the county. Obviously, people pay federal taxes, but not for their property, but they pay a good portion of their property taxes go to the county. Rightfully, a good portion goes to the school board,
right?
And their budget. Which
one thing about Rye High School and like the Rye schools, man, to me, like we never lacked anything. Like going to Rye, man, we had it all. To the point that when I went to college, I was like, wow, this college is broke.
I'm missing this. Yeah. No, we're incredibly lucky. We've always been incredibly lucky. It's a phenomenal district with great professional leadership from the superintendent on down to all the different building principals and things like that. We have a great school board that's a great steward of the buildings and the faculty and everything else, but also of the budget. And we know this. We're really lucky to live in a town where if there's that one thing that we can't get, there's a great group called the Rye Fund for Education. They fundraise privately.
Right.
And they go to the district and say, okay, we've raised this. Tell us where the priorities are where we can help. Mm-hmm. That meant a scoreboard at the football field. That meant new lighting and a redesign of the main theater in the high school.
I still got to check that out.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And you remember it from the days.
I was in band, man.
You know it, so you know it. And you remember it from the days. I was always blown away that we had something like that, but now it sort of has a much more contemporary feel to it. It's still a classic theater, but it's got a great kind of contemporary feel. But that group, Rye Fund for Education, is able to say, okay, the budget can do this much, and we have priorities for that. What are those things that are going to make that experience even better for our kids? If it might be a Promethean board in the classroom, if it might be the scoreboard, it might be the theater, those things they make the experience even better for our kids. My kids are experiencing that right now. They're benefiting from Mr. Taylor.
Mr. Taylor.
Appreciate that. my kids are in it right now, and I appreciate so much that the district has maintained such high standards, and not just rested on its laurels, but if you looked at, I can send you sort of the way that the high school looks at everybody meets a certain standard, right? But they've also now realized that every kid learns.
We're gonna cross the whip.
Every kid learns differently, and every kid needs different opportunities, and they've come up with really smart ways to do that. If you want to excel academically, if you need support academically, if you need some additional support in terms of your ability, all those things are there, and it's incredible that we still are able to do that.
Yeah, Tim, you're gonna cross right here, bro. What's like your favorite places to go to eat and ride?
See, this is where you're going to get me in trouble.
Uh-oh, here we go.
As I told someone recently, I was like, don't make me pick a slice of pizza. Don't make me pick a bagel.
Right.
All right, no, I'll pick a bagel. Bagel's easy. Where do I like to go to eat and ride? As I told you, my wife and I were at the Roadhouse just last night. I did my first fundraiser in this crazy endeavor at the Roadhouse out on the patio, which was great, getting old friends and family together for that. Obviously, when we were down sort of on the Milton Road end of town, so for to-go and quick stuff, there's like this great run now of Piazza, Oakland Beach Deli. Pablo and his guys do a great job. There's the new Italian deli. Have you been to the new market? The Italian
I've never go on that side of town, man. I'm not gonna lie to you.
This is Arthur Avenue. This is legit Arthur Avenue. There's actually 2 people from Arthur Avenue that have opened up phenomenal Italian deli. It's great. And you have a Ryan High School guy who owns Milton Point Provisions, which is another great place where Dockside used to be.
Yeah, my boy Monty.
You know Monty, yeah. So you got this great string down there. You go on to Purchase Street. You want great Italian, you got great Italian. You want great sushi, you got great sushi.
Right.
Gordito's great. Raffaelle's great. Got to go to Poppy's.
Oh,
got to go to Poppy's.
Yeah, Poppy's.
You're looking for breakfast or lunch, you got to go to Poppy's. So
classic.
I'm trying not to get in trouble. Trying to pick restaurants.
Trying
to get me to pick restaurants and not. What am I supposed to say? Kelly's, Jerry's, yes, everybody. Sunrise, Alex, don't blow me up.
Yeah, I hear you. What's your favorite memory growing up in Rye?
It's a great question.
You can give me your top 3.
All right, so I will say this, because my boys came through that program too, and because I'm on the rec commission, and I'm not just saying this because of that, but my memories at Rye Rec Camp growing up were unbelievable, right? And this was back in the day when it was a little more of a bare bones operation than it is now. The team now is incredibly creative and smart about the way they think about things for kids to do.
Right.
There's a camp for middle school age kids where they get to take field trips every day, which is incredible. And hey, and I just have these great memories of being there, and it was a unique kind of early 80s experience where you look back at it now, and I think it was a little bit rough and tumble, but it was exactly what we all needed.
Yeah,
we needed a place to go 8 weeks in the summer for not a lot of money for our parents to pay, and you got to do all sorts of great stuff, and you got to go into the sprinklers at the basketball court, and you got to do those things that were like, yeah, all right, let's go do that. Other memories about growing up, I think anything that's related to Rye High School remains a good memory, and I'm lucky to be. I'm fortunate to be able to say that. Whether it was just my time there.
I'm sure that we both had the same teachers at one point, because I had look at my dad's yearbook. I graduated in 2010.
You're 10, okay.
And I even know my dad's yearbook. He had Dino Gar as a teacher. I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Well, here's a great example. So, Coach Gar's in his 50th year of coaching. Is 41st at Rye. Just broke the New York State record for most wins ever by a football coach.
Yeah.
I played for Coach Gar in 1988 and 1989, right, when I was a junior and a senior. So I'm aging myself for your benefit. My older son is now a sophomore on JV, but he's been through the summer practices with Coach Gar at the helm and is experiencing that same thing that I got to experience. And I think back on that, and I was always a backup, always. I was the team guy versus the star by a mile, right? That was definitely my ability and my contribution. But I look back on it now, and I didn't have a inkling even to play anything past high school, but I would never give up my time playing those sports and all my things at Rye High School. I don't know if you remember, I don't remember when it went away, but when I was in high school, there was an ROTC unit. Do you remember that?
No, we didn't.
Because I graduated, I graduated in 90, so by the time you graduated, it was done.
Yeah.
But there was a junior,
nobody would have been in my.
I think that's what ended up happening. But it was when I was there and well before me, there was this junior ROTC program. So it added a different element that I think probably a tenth of the school did it at the most. But it was a really unique experience to be able to learn those kinds of things, take trips to, military bases, take trips on Navy ships, do all this kind of stuff. But again, going back to your point, Rye has the ability to offer those kinds of things, and we're lucky that our kids get to continue to do it too.
What can you spill some beans on what's coming new, like anything new for the Rye Rec or anything for the kids, for the town, the community?
Well, I mean, I think the one thing we talked about is the priority of seeing what we can do at Gagliardo and when.
That'd be amazing.
Right? I think that's for the Rec Commission. I think that's certainly a focus of ours. The other things are amazing because there are things that have been going on for a long time.
Right.
But what the Rec staff does really well and what the Rec Commission supports is how do we make it better, right? I think Erin and her team.
Oh, shit. Sorry.
No problem. Erin and her team at the Rec, they never just say that's as far as we need to go. They're always looking for the next thing to do, whether that's camp, it's their, all their programs that run throughout the course of the year, sports and otherwise. It's the senior program, which I believe has almost 350 members in it now, and they have events and activities and things all the time. I think those are things I would say is continue to look for those improvements, all of which are to the credit of the city staff.
Right. What's a word of advice you could give to somebody that, I mean, you're not really in the politics like that. So someone that has love for their city as much as you do, that really doesn't have much, political background. What advice could you give to somebody that wants to make change, just and hop into in a political role?
It's true. I've not been a politician before. This is my first run. The last elected office I held was sophomore class president at Rye High School.
That's amazing.
So I'm jumping back in after all this time. The advice that I would give, if I'm allowed to give any, being in this for the first time, is don't be afraid to jump. Don't be afraid to jump into the process. That it's important that all of us stay engaged. Everybody picks a different way to be involved, a different area to be involved with. It may be your expertise. It may be something new, but this city runs because citizens volunteer to do things. There's not one, from mayor to council to all of our commissions, our commission chairs. There's not one paid position in that entire lot, and that's where the city staff does, the professional staff does an unbelievable job, and they implement all of it. We'd be lost without them. But those volunteer commissions, up and including the council, is what makes the town go. And I would ask people, don't be afraid to jump in. You whether you've been here since 1979 like I have, or you got here yesterday.
If you want to see some change,
jump in and help. And that may be for some people volunteering at a charitable organization. That may be joining one of these commissions. That may just be coaching a Little League team. And all of that is amazing, and that's what's making this a special place, and I hope it continues to do that.
Is there anything you want our viewers to know about you that they might not know about you, that they might need to know to help me get to that vote?
They should know that I'm going to be knocking on their door, is what I would say. They should know that if they see my face walking up their path or walking through their apartment hallway, it's me, and I'm coming to say hi. I'm going to come and introduce myself. I want to tell you why I'm doing this. I want to hear what you have to say about this city, why you love it, and what you want to see happen next. Like you said, what's the next big thing? Yeah. The next big thing, as it often does in Rye, is going to come from a citizen, a resident, a neighbor walking up and raising their hand and saying, what about this? Yeah. That may be a safety and traffic thing like the Forest Avenue sidewalk. That may be an improvement on a field. That may be an idea about storm resilience. But those things, more often than not come from that level of engagement from the residents. And I think that's what I would say. I would say, I'm coming, and I would say to keep in mind that I'm doing this as an independent for a reason. I didn't do this because it made it easier on myself, and I'm not doing it just for good slogans or any other nonsense. I'm doing this because if I get the chance to get your vote, I'm going to be doing this for you. I'm not going to be doing this with any consideration or loyalty to anybody other than the residents of Rye. Right.
And I've only seen Rick McCabe signs. I haven't seen any other candidate signs out.
Evidently, the two major parties, I think, have a long-standing agreement that maybe we don't do lawn signs for local elections. And I got to do this a little differently. Yeah, right? Come on. I don't have a party machine behind me. I got to get out there. And I'm so honored. I'm humbled that good friends have said, I'll take a sign. Give me a sign. I'll put it on my lawn. I'll put it on the corner. As long as it's on your property, people, you can put it on your property. You can't put it can't go in the city right away over here. It's got to be on your side, on your side of the sidewalk. But it's from my house to my parents' apartment to all the friends around town that have put them out.
Yeah, you got a big one at Jerry's.
Signs everywhere. Signs. I know, and any of the businesses that have been supportive, I'm grateful for as well.
Now, do you feel that the community does, like you always say, the community's got to come together and say they got to say? Do you feel like the community does do that, or does the community in these different neighborhoods, do they need to make more of an appearance? Do they need to make more of a attendance at these meetings like you're mentioning.
I would encourage anyone to participate like that, right? Where I think.
Yeah. But how is it looking now? Like, do people come out?
I think a lot of people come out, but I think a lot of people come out. A lot of the same people come out and are used to hearing used to airing their point of view. Some people, understandably, the way some issues have gone the last couple of years, they're hesitant to do it. They don't want to take the heat that comes with that sometimes, and I can completely understand that, and I respect it. What I would say is, you want as many voices in that process as possible.
Right.
You can always go to the city council meeting, and the first thing on the agenda is residents wishing to be heard. It's the same thing at the rec commission. It's the same thing on a lot of these commissions. That's the first thing on the agenda.
Yeah.
Is residents wishing to be heard about something that we're not going to talk about already. And I think that speaks volumes about the kind of community we live in, how our government is run, and I think that's a clear opening for anyone that wants to ask a question, air a grievance, bring up a topic, offer a solution. I think that's what we always need.
If you're elected mayor, what's the first thing you're going to do when you get into that office?
That's a good question. I think our first, as a council, I think our first orders of business are going to be pretty clear. It's going to be the things that we talked about. It's some of those core issues that we always want to maintain our hard work on, like finance, flooding resilience, things like that. But I think we need to make our selection of a city manager, a permanent city manager. We knew a year ago that our city manager was going to retire. He's now been out of that office for 6 months, and what we now have as our acting city manager has done a very, very good job keeping everything moving and improving those programs like I talked about.
Yeah.
But we do need to make a decision on that. It's just taking too long.
So what's the problem with the one we have now?
You tell me.
He doesn't want to do it or something?
No. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. It's more about the selection process. And I think people have, understandably, the delay could be frustrating for a good amount of time. Has been frustrating for a good amount of time, but I do think it makes sense for us to pause on it for now, given that this is it's a crucial position in town, and the new council should probably get their chance to vote to select that new person as opposed to it happening before the election. And it sounds like that's the way it's going to go. But I think it seems like this goes back to that comprehensive plan conversation where things that you think should happen with strong debate, lots of deliberation, following our codes and laws, still seem like they take too long. Mm-hmm. Like we're a year into knowing that the person who runs our city day to day, our chief administrative officer, was leaving, and we don't have someone in place to replace him. I want it to be a strong process. I want to interview the right candidates, a lot of candidates, but that doesn't take. I mean, if you did this in the private sector, someone would fire you for not finding a replacement for the most crucial role in your company or at your school.
Oh, okay, that's how important
I don't know a school that goes a year without a principal. It can happen, but if you look at the Board of Ed, our superintendent stepped down, retired in the spring. Mm-hmm. He did an incredible job, and one thing he did very well was think about succession planning and say he had someone that could step into his role after an interview process. Other people around the district, principals and otherwise, have been able to interview and be selected and move into those roles. So not only do you have the best person for the job, but you have that experience and their institutional memory, which is really important too. It doesn't make any sense to me that a year later we're still, and it's not, I mean, a year ago it was announced. Right. We knew that at some point the city manager was going to leave, and we had, I don't think there hasn't been enough done to make sure that we could do a good search and get somebody in place. And now I'm glad we're waiting until after the election.
Talk about your team a little bit, because you have people that you got people in different positions that if you're elected, that fill their spots. Can you talk about like your team a little bit?
Well, once you're in, it's the council is the council, and the rest of it really is the professional staff that actually makes the city run. So the mayor doesn't appoint as you would if you were, a congressman or a senator. You don't have a chief of staff. You don't have a communications director or a legislative director. You're one of those 7 people up there on the council, and that's how you start to operate. You lean on people, around City Hall and on the council to help do the job as any council person would. But it's not a matter of hiring a big staff. For the campaign, I've been just lucky to have friends and volunteers from around town who have jumped in. Some that have had past loyalties to different candidates and different parties. Yeah. But these people have listened to what I've had to say about the way I'm doing this and what I think the benefit can be if I'm elected in terms of being an independent. And I've been able to put, a small but mighty team together to help with some of the things that you need to do, whether it's knocking on doors, some of the lawn signs, just getting things prepared, being ready for a debate on October 20th. So all those things, it's helpful to have. It's helpful to have smart people from around town that are willing to jump in.
Yeah, is that because you're not in the politics? Is that how you get most of your insight and like your knowledge and your tips about how to like run a campaign?
I've been really lucky to find, in addition to people in town that have been willing to volunteer, I've been really lucky to find a couple of organizations that are just advocacy organizations for independent candidates.
Yeah.
So there's this group called Good Party, and their mission is to help independent candidates around the country run for all sorts of levels of office. It's mostly small, low-level offices like council, local, very local,
right.
like council. But they've been helpful in. They just provide tips. They provide online courses. They sent me my first 50 lawn signs for free. Like their whole thing is let's get
startup package.
Let's get independents elected, and that's been really helpful because the institutional knowledge, if you have helped other candidates run, is a really important thing. Every time the cycle comes through, you want to rethink things. You want to think about how you're going to do it differently, but at the same time, there's a certain knowledge, there's a certain relationships.
How are
fundraising.
you?
How you doing?
Good. What's up?
I did. We got to move it off. We can't be on the city right away. We got to just move it in. So I actually took it. I took it back because if it's on that property, the city will pull it up. It's got to be on private property. But that's okay.
My private property is my neighbor there with the black fence.
All right, that's different. I'll bring it back. You got it. Hey, they're dying.
I'm with a celebrity here.
They're dying for the signs. They're dying. They're clamoring in the streets for the signs.
Yeah.
It's not just about the signs. It's about, can I do this job? And I think it's there's a huge amount of trust that goes into people casting their vote for you. And what I'm trying to do every day is in big groups, small groups, individually at the front door, try and show people that I've got the temperament, the independence, and the knowledge to do the job.
Can you let people know how to support you the best? Whether it be a website, if you got any events coming up where they could see you. Heads up, little man.
Oh yeah, new playground coming in, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be awesome.
Midland. I feel like this school is like one of the last ones to get renovated too.
And they got new classrooms. Those are new modular classrooms, and Osborne got them too. They got them, if you remember, on like the back end of Osborne, on the Osborne roadside, they put in modulars. I don't know.
I remember that was like years ago. I was almost in Osborne still when they started doing
those,
that.
They thought they were going to be temporary, and then they just replaced them with some brand new ones, which is great to see.
Right.
Your question again?
Yeah, it was all your links
I mean, look,
anything coming up.
It's a lot of the basic stuff. McCabeformayor.com is my website. Got some information on me, some reasons why I'm doing this the way I'm doing it. A couple of articles that have been written, some things that I've written that I think I'd like people to take a second just to read through it and think about the ideas and the reasons why I'm doing this. Certainly, any of the help on social media is always helpful.
Yeah.
Especially on the local level, you're going to get friends and advocates and even new people that have sort of commented and said, that's interesting. I never thought about that, or that's interesting. No one's tried that before, and I think that's a really powerful thing.
Right.
Got lawn signs in the back of my car. My car's a rolling campaign headquarters.
You got to be ready,
I've got
man.
signs, I've got cards, I've got door hangers, water, granola bars. I'm ready to go. Right. So I have all that stuff out there. But listen, all that is, on some level, all of that is cosmetic, because what's going to matter is people are going to walk into a voting booth and they're going to make a decision whether it's going to be me or one of the other candidates. And I'm hoping I'm doing enough. Between early voting, we know, starts on October 25th. That's only 3 weeks from yesterday. So by the time you guys have this up, it's going to be less than that. Election day is November 4th. The most important thing I can ask from anybody is just make sure you get to a polling place. Make sure you get, or if you can't, get that early ballot, get that mail-in ballot, and get that in. If you go to the Westchester County Board of Elections website, all the information's there about where you can find your polling place.
Timmy Cross, yeah.
Where you can find your polling place, when they're going to be open for early voting and things like that.
Yeah, we cross.
Those things are crucial.
Yeah, they're gonna let us cross. Come on, Timmy.
I don't trust that. Smart. It's a rye thing. The rye boys are like, yeah, they'll stop.
Rye privilege,
Right?
is crazy.
You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, but no, and I think I'm actually I'm going to post something on social next week. It's important for people to go to the County Board of Election website. Make sure you're registered.
Yep.
Make sure if you've moved here recently, you're registered to vote in Rye, because that can change quickly. If you just moved into town over the summer, getting the kids in school, it's a quick thing that you can do to make sure if you walk in that voting booth during early voting or on election day, you're going to be able to cast your vote no matter who you're voting for.
Gotcha. Ladies and gentlemen, Rick McCabe.
Thanks, Angela.
For mayor, man.
Right.
Two out of 3 down. Trying to get Bill Anderson on next.
Garnet's forever.
Yeah,
Here we go.
I appreciate
Here we
your
go.
time.
My
I
pleasure.
appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having me.